This is Fat to Fierce. Welcome to the Confidence Chronicles. I'm your host, Amy English. Join me on this empowering adventure towards a healthier relationship with food, body, and self, one delicious bite at a time. Welcome to episode 29 of the Confidence Chronicles. I'm your host, Amy English, and I'm happy you're here today. I hope you are having a great week so far. Today's topic is going to be the weight of negative thoughts. Let's take a look and see how thoughts are impacting our lives, okay? So let's kick things off with some statistics. They say the average person thinks approximately 60,000 thoughts per day. 60,000 thoughts in a day. That's a lot of thoughts, okay? That's a lot of sentences in your brain. And I often imagine these thoughts like the digital ticker tape we see when we're watching the stock market. It's like a constant scroll of sentences running in my brain. Or for another visual, I'll think of that like little thought bubbles forming around my head, similar to a cartoon or a comic strip. Just imagine seeing yourself with 60,000 thought bubbles around your head. There's no way to know every single thought that we think. In fact, most of our thinking effort goes on subconsciously, behind the scenes. Of those 60,000 or so thoughts that we think in a day, there are very few that come into our awareness. Since our thoughts impact our feelings and actions and can then create additional thoughts, it's important to recognize the thoughts that we are paying attention to, so the ones that are coming into our awareness. Let's look specifically at negative thoughts or thoughts that are perceived as negative, the thoughts that leave us feeling ick, because we all have them. Have you ever considered the weight of your negative thoughts? How about the overall impact that they have on your day or on your life or on your journey? Negative thoughts can be like an anchor, pulling us down and preventing us from reaching our full potential. They can keep us from doing the things, taking the actions we say we want to do. They can also trigger emotional eating. When we're continuously thinking thoughts that cause us to feel stressed or overwhelmed, we often turn to food for comfort. And this is where the connection between our minds and our mouths becomes clear. Negative thoughts trigger negative emotions, which trigger negative action, i.e., eating. In other words, the thoughts you think about yourself will impact your behavior. And it goes like this. So here's an old thought from my archives, my personal archives. It was this: I'm never going to lose weight. I can't even tell you how many times I thought that sentence. That sentence would come into my mind, right? I'm never going to lose weight. And how did that leave me feeling? Frustrated. An action. What do you do when you're feeling frustrated? How do you behave? What action do you take? What do you not do, right? For me, this is where I would start thinking and questioning, why bother? What's the point? I'm never going to lose weight anyway. And then I would eat, right? So there would be the action, or indulge in other behaviors that weren't helpful or supportive of my journey. You know, maybe scrolling social media or binge watching some TV show while mindlessly munching, right? Thoughts fuel feelings, and feelings fuel thoughts. Both will trigger actions and behaviors. I had many thoughts that kept me in a continuous negative spiral, especially when it came to my weight and emotional eating. I call them fat mentality thoughts, and they sounded like this: I can't do this. Nothing works. This is too hard. I look terrible. I'll be fat forever. These were some of my top hits back in the day. They were on a repeat cycle in my brain. This was the scroll. This was the ticker tape scrolling across my brain. Imagine how these thoughts left me feeling. Imagine the overall impact that they had on my life and on my journey. It wasn't good. I felt terrible about myself, and these continuous tunes kept me swimming in a sea of despair and self-doubt. I used food to numb or feel better temporarily, but then there would be more top tunes. I screwed up again. I have no willpower. I can't control myself. I'll never be able to change this. There's something wrong with me. And the hits kept coming. The cycle kept spinning until I hired my very first life coach back in 2015 and realized I could stop the spinning. It was in my power to change this for myself. And I didn't know that before. I don't think any of us realize that it is within our power to change our thoughts, because I don't even think we know to question the thoughts that we're thinking. Once you know that, you get to decide if you want to change it for yourself. And I want to insert a little side note here, because in addition to the thoughts you think about yourself, there's also the thoughts you think other people are thinking about you. Okay? I know it sounds like a crazy tongue twister, but these thoughts will also impact your feelings and actions. Okay? And so what that looks like, or what that sounds like, is you're thinking so-and-so is thinking this about you. Let me paint it with an example. So back in the day, I would walk into a room, like a meeting at work or something, and I would just start thinking that people were thinking about me. Like they were thinking, oh, look at her, or she looks terrible, or look at that outfit or something, right? Now, really, that's just me, but I was projecting my thoughts onto them. And the thing is, none of us have any way of knowing what anybody is thinking. And it really doesn't even matter what they're thinking, right? And you don't even know if it's true. So we're creating more stress and discomfort and other negative feelings for ourselves by thinking we know what other people are thinking. And it's just not helpful, okay? And it just works against us, right? We're working against ourselves. So it's just something to be mindful of. The next time you notice that you think you know what someone's thinking about you, here's what I like to do. I like to ask myself, whose lane am I in right now? Like, am I in my lane or am I in their lane? Do I have any way of knowing what they're thinking? Absolutely not. Okay, let me bring it back to myself. All right, so that can be helpful. Anywho, what can we do about our negative thoughts? So, first, you gotta catch your thoughts. And that just means to start paying attention to them, noticing them. Start to become aware of the thoughts that come up regularly. What are your top tunes? I've shared with you some of mine. What are yours? Start writing down the thoughts that cross your mind throughout the day. Keep a record of your greatest hits, like my fat mentality thoughts above. Question how they feel. Question what they weigh. Are they dragging you down or lifting you up? How do you feel when those sentences scroll across your ticker tape? Then question them. When a sentence comes up, is it true? Then there's my favorite question. What else could be true, even if it does feel true? Because here's the other thing about thoughts, okay? And I think this is why we don't always know to question them. We kind of see them as fact. And they're not. Not always. I mean, there are facts out there, but a lot of them are not based on fact. They're just thoughts that we've chosen to believe, and we get to question them. We get to question if we want to continue believing them. Is this true? What else could be true? This is how you manage your mind. Okay, now I want to point something out, and this is important. It's all important, but seriously, it's not always easy to face your crappy thoughts. I have had clients in the past that really struggled with this in the beginning. It was hard to see their thoughts on paper. It can feel upsetting and embarrassing. I get it. That's why it's super important to be gentle with yourself. Facing these thoughts takes courage and a ton of compassion. If it feels like a struggle to explore your thoughts, I will ask you this question. What do you want more? To temporarily feel the discomfort of facing those negative thoughts in order to break the cycle, or to ignore them and continue carrying the burden? You get to decide. Just keep in mind that ignorance isn't always bliss. Not when you want to make significant changes to improve your life. Let's take a moment to revisit the former fat mentality tunes I shared earlier and see what happens when we ask my favorite question. What else could be true? Okay, first sentence. I can't do this. What else could be true? It's possible I can. Nothing works. What else could be true? Some things work. I can reflect on what has worked before. This is too hard. What else could be true? This is different. It feels hard right now. That's okay. I can do hard things. How about, I look terrible. What else could be true? I look like me. And here's my favorite. I'll be fat forever. What else could be true? I'll be me forever. I just want to share that one right there was a major game changer in my journey. I still remember the day I wrote that. I was working on my thoughts, right? And I knew that I kept having this thought, I'll be fat forever. And it was like, what else could be true? And it just kind of hit me like, oh, well, I'll be Amy forever. I'll be me forever. Woo, what a difference. The new thoughts that I've shared here, so the response to what else could be true, these are what I refer to as fierce mentality thoughts. This is the whole point of fat to fierce, okay? Fat to fierce has really nothing to do with the physical outcome of weight loss. It has everything to do with transforming mentally and emotionally, feeling better about yourself, having your own back, taking back your power, right? That's what's fierce. Now, with these new sentences, with these fierce mentality thoughts, notice how they're not necessarily positive, okay? I'll be me forever. That's not positive. It's neutral. We don't have to jump right to something positive, okay? You don't have to turn a negative thought into a positive. In fact, that often will not work. because it's too unrealistic. For example, when I used to think I look terrible, jumping to I look amazing would have felt like bullshit. I mean, let's be real. I wouldn't have believed it. Here, think about it. So all my days, I'm thinking, I look terrible. I look terrible. Jumping to, I look fantastic. I look amazing. No way. I couldn't fathom that at the time, right? I wouldn't have believed it. Saying instead, I look like me, that feels true, because I do, and it's neutral. That's the next step towards a more empowering cascade of thoughts. That's how this works. Think of it like a ladder, a thought ladder, okay? Your negative thought is the bottom rung of the ladder. So that's, I look terrible, if we're continuing to use my example, right? We want to take the next step up. We're not going to automatically jump up to the top of the ladder. It just doesn't work that way. There are steps in between. There's rungs in between on the ladder, right? So the next step up is, I look like me. And then maybe the next step up after that is, I look okay today. Or, I like my outfit today. Or I don't look that bad today, right? And we keep taking step after step after step until we get to something like, I look good, or I like the way I look, right? That's how this works. It's practice and it takes time. Okay, let's just for fun, let's look at the other thoughts that I shared, the other fat mentality thoughts that I shared, and see what happens when we implement a fierce mentality thought, okay? When we ask that question, what else could be true? So I screwed up again. What else could be true? I'm human. Mistakes happen. What can I learn from this? Now that's a question, but it's a helpful question to ask because then you can use curiosity to see what you can learn from it, right? Another fat mentality thought used to be, I have no willpower. What else could be true? Maybe willpower isn't the answer. I can try curiosity instead. Okay, there's curiosity again. I have curiosity and I can question what happened, right? And listen, willpower isn't the solution we all tend to think it is, all right? But curiosity, absolutely. All right, another fat mentality thought used to be, I can't control myself. What else could be true? Well, I can learn to have my own back. I'll never be able to change this. What else could be true? I have changed things before. I have evidence of that. And by the way, anytime you can gather some evidence to support what else could be true is a bonus, all right? And when you think like I'll never be able to change something, but then you realize, well, there are things in my life that I have changed before, and you start thinking about them. Like I used to do this when I was in the process of overcoming emotional eating, I used to use the fact that I had quit smoking as evidence that I could change things, that I could change hard things, right? Because quitting smoking, I will always say, was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and so was overcoming emotional eating. But at the time when I was overcoming emotional eating, I was like, this is so hard. I'm never going to be able to change this. And so I was like, wait a second. I quit smoking. I have evidence of something hard that I've changed before, right? And you can even get real basic with the change one because it's like, oh, I change my clothes every day. I change my underwear, right? I've changed toothpaste brands before. I mean, these are like super basic, but they're evidence of making changes. And that all that does is support what else could be true, the new thought, okay, the new sentence. Last example, there's something wrong with me. Oh, this is a good one. What else could be true? There's something right with me. Ooh, again, what are some examples, okay? What are some examples? There's something right with me. Maybe just being me, just walking on this planet, just being able to breathe every day, okay? Again, the key is to question and have an open mind when looking for a new thought that feels better. Now, again, very important, managing your brain and finding new thoughts, okay, what else could be true, doesn't mean you'll never have a negative thought again, okay? We are human. Negative thoughts happen. I have negative thoughts all the time. I'm just better at catching them now. And I don't let them take up space in my brain the way that I used to. Like once I catch them, I can decide if I'm going to indulge in them or not. Okay? And what struck me as I was preparing for this episode today is it's actually very similar to what we've talked about in terms of overcoming emotional eating. It's like you pause to question and decide if you want to eat the food. In this case, you're pausing to catch the thought and decide if you want to think it, okay? That is managing your mind, and that is taking your power back. Remember, the mind is a muscle, okay? Just like our physical bodies need exercise, our minds need training too, okay? This is a marathon, not a sprint. One thing I love to share with my clients, okay, when we're talking about managing our minds and choosing new thoughts and even just overcoming emotional eating, right? This takes practice. I don't know about you. I've never been someone who runs. So the thought of me going out tomorrow to run any kind of a marathon, I mean, there's training involved, right? There's conditioning. It takes time to work up to that pace where you can actually run a marathon, right? No one would think it was weird if you were like, I'm going to take the next 6 months and condition myself to be able to run a marathon, or the next year, okay? Your brain is the same way. Doing this mental and emotional work is no different. And that's why I say this is like conditioning for a marathon, not a sprint. With practice and with time, and listen, I am not a patient person, okay? Just ask my husband. But with practice and time, we can strengthen our ability to recognize and challenge negative thought patterns and find alternative thoughts that simply feel better, even if they're neutral. Because neutral feels a heck of a lot better than down in the dumps. Okay. If you would like to get support on this, please reach out and schedule a discovery call with me. You can go to my website, amyenglishcc.com, and book a discovery call right from there. We can talk about this. It's part of the work I do. And hopefully after this episode, you can see the link between your thoughts and eating patterns, because it is all connected. Okay, until next time. Are you ready to take control of your eating, embrace your body, and boost your confidence? Then let's get fierce. Start your Fat to Fierce journey today. Go to amyenglishcc.com for more resources and to book your discovery call.